Today, Triumph announced a new TFC version of the Speed Twin 1200, and so here's 7 things that you need to know about it. TFC stands for Triumph Factory Custom and is generally regarded as their top-spec version of some of their most popular bikes. It started off in 2019 with the Thruxton Cafe Racer and the Rocket 3, followed by a couple of versions of the Bobber, and so this Speed Twin is now the 5th bike ever produced in the TFC line. Now, while there are plenty of changes here to make this Speed Twin a bit special, naturally underneath it all there's a lot of the same spec as the existing Speed Twin 1200 RS. So you've got the 1200 version of the Bonneville Parallel Twin, making 103.5 horsepower peak at 7,750 RPM, and a very handy 112 Nm of peak torque at 4,250, so plenty of shove on tap. Then the frame is a steel cradle with a bit of a traditional look to it, but it rolls on 17-inch wheels front and rear with the thoroughly sporty and modern Metzler Racetech RRK3 tyres. The geometry of the frame as well, the seat height, the peg position are all the same on this TFC model, although the ergonomics do receive a little bit of a tweak. And it's entirely down to the handlebars, with the flat tubular bars of the RS making way for a more sporty clip-on style bar, which allows the rider to get into a more aggressive and assertive position. Now you can get these as an accessory on the Speed Twin RS, or as standard on the very nice looking Cafe Racer Special Edition, but what I will say is it does leave you on those two bikes with some pretty ugly nubs right on the top yoke where the flat bar clamps used to be. So very nice to see a dedicated top yoke on this TFC version, which looks much better in my opinion. And you also get your limited run number etched in there too, along with a nice little TFC logo. Will the bars actually make it better to ride though? Well, for a lot of people, I expect it'll probably make it a bit less comfy, but if you do like to go quick and you have the requisite flexibility, then why the hell not? Another significant upgrade though is the fork, with the Showa fork from the RS making way for a little bit of Öhlins bling. It's a fully adjustable 43mm upside down fork with a black finish on the outers and some gold anodization on the inners to help match with the theme on the rest of the bike. Now the RS, with the standard Showa fork, handles fantastically well already, to be fair, but I guess you might feel a little bit of extra quality with this one, and also if you're a bit OCD, then there could be something to be said for having a fork that matches the Öhlins shocks at the rear as well. Braking, by the way, is already top spec too, with Brembo's radial M4.32 calipers up front. You get a Brembo radial master cylinder as well with an MCS adjustable lever, and so no need for any upgrades in this department. Now, if you look closely at the spec sheet, then you will notice that one improvement is the wet weight figure, with it now coming in at 214 versus the 216 of the RS. And I think one of the factors here will probably be the fact that they fitted it with some Akrapovic slip-on silencers. Now, they also should enhance the soundtrack a little bit, although I wouldn't expect a huge change in volume, as it's the catalyzer really that strangles things, not the silencers themselves. In fact, there's a really handy video here comparing the Speed Twin sound with the stock cans, with the Akrapovic slip-ons, and also with a D-Cat, and so I'll link to that down in the description below so you can check them all out for yourself. There is the looks factor as well, although I can't really decide on this one. They look nice enough. The carbon end caps kind of help as well, but maybe they look a little too modern and angular versus the overall rounded retro aesthetic of the rest of the bike, but that one is personal taste, so let me know what you think down in the comments. Now, another little weight saving will probably be the carbon bits too, with the front and rear mud guards and also the heel guards, although realistically that's going to be a few grams rather than a few kilos. It does help with the overall look though, along with the black and gold paint job on the tank, which I think is fantastic, and I also think it's the little touches on these TFC bikes that really makes them look so good. The gold chain, for example, the black anodized sprocket, that beautiful top yoke with the gold caps on the Öhlins fork, and so I think it all just works really nicely together and looks cohesive, and I also like the consistency of this TFC sub-brand, which does help to make them feel a little bit special. Rounding off the visual tweaks at the rear end as well, we've got the multifunction bullet lights, which do help to tidy things up a little bit, although the regular tail light is just blanked off rather than fully removed. Anyway, how much are we talking? Well, these come in at £18,495, and I've got to be honest, that is a little bit more than I was expecting. Perhaps it's worth considering though that just 750 will be made worldwide, and so maybe you're willing to pay a little bit extra for some of that exclusivity. That said, be warned, they did 2 TFC versions of the bobber, and so it might not be the only 750 Speed Twin TFCs that they'll ever make. Now, deliveries are set to start in October 2026, and so if you do want one, then I'd recommend getting your order in pretty sharpish. As always though, I'd love to know what you think of it, so do let me know down in the comments below, and if you do want to see my review of the RS version, which, to be fair, you could save a few grand on, then I'll put it on the screen now so you can catch up. Do hit subscribe as well for more of the latest motorcycle news and reviews like this right here on MOTOBOB. A massive thanks for watching today, and we'll catch you in the next video.